I'm sometimes get stuck in a mindset of can't allow myself to have this thing until I'm better. I can't allow myself to do this thing because I'm not ready, because I'm not healed. But then at the same time, do you ever heal? Are you always, do you think it's a constant ever evolving thing when it comes to healing?
I don't think we're ever healed. I don't think we ever get anywhere. I think and I've experienced myself, I feel like there's particular pieces, whether it's like personality development work or ancestral healing or soul pieces being retrieved, that once that thing is reclaimed, there's a significant okay, that piece is done now. I think it's really important to not constantly be trying to heal something and not constantly be like, when I'm good enough, when I'm this, when I'm that, because it's like people that win the lottery, when I win the lottery I'll be happy, and then they spend all the money and they're not happy. When this happens I'll be happy, when I have a partner I'll be happy, and then you get a partnership, it might be beautiful, but it might trigger the deepest core wound that you have because you haven't felt safe enough to meet that part of you.
Hello and welcome to the Cornish Witch podcast. I'm your host Freya, a witch who lives in Cornwall but who isn't a born and bred Cornish maid. In this episode, I welcome back Olivia Grace Jensen. We explore the concept that we are never fully healed and that healing is an ongoing evolutionary process. We discuss how crises and challenging life events often serve as initiations into deeper self-awareness, personal stories around friendship changes, and the collective shifts in understanding gender dynamics. We discuss insights into social patterns, archetypes, and the importance of authentic connection beyond societal conditioning. This episode is a compelling reminder that transformation is a lifelong, beautiful process. Olivia, welcome back to the Cornish Witch podcast.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming back. It's really nice to see you again. We're sat in a new space this time, in your gorgeous kitchen. Lovely garden, which just looks the idyllic English garden in the summertime.
It's very alive, isn't it? It's gorgeous.
Very alive. Yeah, very alive. How have you been?
Good. Yeah, very good. It feels like a long time ago that we last spoke, even though it's probably not that long ago.
I feel like it was April.
Yeah.
Was it April?
Feels like it feels like still midwinter.
Yeah, I mean it was. Yeah. I do remember the rain when I was when I came down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm well. I'm in a really good place and just completed Softcore, the retreat we talked about last time, which was really special, and really just enjoying the change of the seasons and how alive it feels here at this time. And yeah, it makes a big difference to me because I spend so much time outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm well. Thanks for having me again.
Oh no, you're very welcome. How was Softcore? I saw some posts on Instagram and it looked really, really good. How did it all go?
It was great. It was really great. There were aspects that were personally challenging for me.
Okay.
Because just I'm always growing and learning, as a facilitator and kind of developing my craft. The experience in general is just gorgeous. The body of work that is Softcore, I feel like really lives inside the three of us. I co-facilitate this retreat body of work with two others called Tracy and Laura. They're really good friends of mine, and we're just so in love with what Softcore actually is. And it feels like the first time we held it in Ireland last year, we were kind of like, okay, we feel this thing living inside of us, and let's do it and see what happens. And then we were kind of like, wow, this is going really well. People are having a really transformative experiences and softening and changing, and their faces are changing shape, and people are loving each other more. And it was just exquisite, actually, what happened with this very, very, very beautiful group we had in Ireland. So it was completely like, of course we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've all grown up, you know, a lot in the last year, and life has really squeezed all three of us. But partly that's what Softcore was born out of, was kind of like a deep need for like soul nourishment and replenishment after intensity. And we're just continually falling in love more with what this is, and just seeing the impacts of what actually quite a short amount of time, like 4 to 5 days, can do when you're in a select space with groups of people and people feel safe enough to drop into their bodies, experience some spaciousness in their heart, and then on the kind of towards the end we move into the soul, and actually reflecting the magnificence of people to themselves and what we really deeply see in each other. And it just pops something open. It's like the bud of a flower just goes beep. For a lot of people, and people have come away, and the WhatsApp group is really thriving, people hanging out together, spending time, building friendships. It's quite remarkable, actually, like how simple and incredible love actually is. So I'm really proud, actually, of that, and we'll do another one at some point next year.
I was going to say, do you have plans for another retreat?
Yeah, we will we need to kind of see how the land lies, but probably in about 18 months time.
I know that I think I mentioned it last time, I can't remember, but where St Nectan's Glen is, they have a whole house basically which is for people to book retreats that they can facilitate in. And obviously you have the waterfall and everything there, but if you are thinking about a space, looking for a space, then St Nectan's Glen has a dedicated space just for people to go. I've been
to the waterfall and that valley. It's just so stunning.
It is amazing.
I took a friend and he was saying, I didn't know places like this exist in the UK. It's like, well, this is 2%, you know, what we have left of our rainforest. It's 2% of what it was, but it's an exquisite tiny pocket of land.
It's like a little Eden, isn't it?
It's amazing.
I love it. I really want to go up to the Lake District because the water looks crystal clear. I bet it's absolutely freezing, but I would love to go and swim in some of those pools in the Lake District.
That would be very etheric, wouldn't it? Going for a naked swim in Lake Windermere. And
I don't think I could do a naked swim. I'd be too scared. No, I can't. I don't even like leeches.
Fair enough. I don't like leeches either.
No. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and we were talking about the last time we visited St Nectan's Glen, and one of our friends came out with like tiny leeches on her feet. And I was like, oh, I don't know whether I'd want to go all the way in. If that's You
have to salt them off, apparently.
Really? Oh, I mean, I know they don't. They're still used in medicine, so I know they're not like that bad for you, but it's just a bit, gross. Well, our themes today is going to be around healing and soul transformation and softcore, and we're going to have a nice bit of a free flow as well, and just see where the conversation takes us. But I think starting with healing and soul transformation is a good place to start. I put the podcast on hiatus for about 6 to 8 weeks, mainly because I had some work stuff that I had to really prioritize, and then I kind of went through a bit of a very low period myself, so I feel like I'm coming out of that now. But talk to me about soul transformation and that healing work and the journey that you go on.
Well, I see the soul as the deep self. That's what a teacher of soul called Michael Meade calls it, the deep self. And he has this phrase that he says, it takes the right kind of trouble to get to the deep self. I can't remember the exact phrasing. And the idea is that the little self is the ego or the personality, and the deep self is the soul or our inherent natural essence. And for me, I don't like to necessarily segment things so much of like, this is my personality and this is my soul. But I do believe that we are carrying an essence. All of us have this unique essence that lives in the core of us, which is the soul, and we are therefore connected to other souls through our soul, and that soul expression transcends who you are as Freya and who I am as Olivia, and our backgrounds and our genders and our colours and, you know, all that stuff. It's like the soul kind of lives in a transpersonal space that is beyond time and space, multi-incarnational, and yet for whatever reason the soul expression that I have is living through me and my unique quirks and weirdness as the human being that I am. So I would say soul-based transformation is really a metamorphosis from who we are to who we truly are, like really allowing that space for our true, authentic expression to shine through our personality in this lifetime, and be able to live through the vessel that we have to radiate what it is that we're actually really here for.
How does it work for people who, because I think there's a lot of people out there who don't know who they are and they don't know what their authentic selves are, or whether they're a good person or a bad person, or if they're, I think with the pressures in society these days and the way sort of our Western civilization and culture is, everyone lives a fast life. And so a lot of people could be completely lost and not know what their true self is. How would someone who isn't sure what their deep sort of personality or their deep authentic self is, how would they go through finding that?
Well, there's different ways in, and I feel like if you want to get quite nerdy about it,
I love getting nerdy about it.
Some of the esoteric teachings that I've followed, they talk about stages of initiation, and so the first stage is you start to see. You might like change your diet, or develop a yoga practice, or start meditating, or start therapy, or there might be some ways in which lifestyle changes start to make space for kind of that slow, gentle, or it can be intense, but that reckoning with self that comes when we slow down. For example, COVID, I think, and I can go down a tangent here, so I'll come back, but I think for some people, COVID showed people that when you're not running around trying to get the tube, and, you know, and actually spending more time with your children, or you're baking, or you can't go out so much, or you're not spending so much on getting through the week and then splurging at the weekend. So you might get a veg box and spend more time in your garden, or get a dog, or those kind of lifestyle changes, I feel like we're reflecting like a macro thing happening in the world soul of we're trying to wake up here. Like humanity is trying to show us that we've lost where we came from. And actually this more simple, slow, authentic way of living is really attractive to some people. And because some people had the gift of a lot more time during COVID, they got to make lifestyle-based decisions like moving out of the city, or, you know, tweaks here and there, or drastic changes that reminded them of who they really were before they started living the 9-to-5 grind. So that's kind of like, I would say, like a first stage. If you want to understand more about who you are, giving yourself time to actually get to know yourself, and choosing well, like choosing holistic well-being, eating well, sleeping well, drinking good quality water, spending more time in nature, meditating, putting your hands on your own body, investing in some exploration and self-inquiry, developing somatic awareness of how your body feels, and all of that stuff is going to create more space for depth of understanding of self. And then there's kind of various different stages, I won't go through all of them, but where once we start to get a taste of who we really are, we can start to meet those deeper pieces of like calcification or pain or trauma or suffering that come up when there's a little bit more space to feel. And that's why so many people don't choose to meet themselves, because it often means opening the door to the things that we suppress and we numb out. And the ways in which the Netflix habit, or the coffees, or the sex addiction, or the food, or whatever it is, whatever that's been masking.
Drugs and alcohol.
Once you start to take that away, you get to see or feel like, okay, what actually lives underneath this. And then another way of looking at it is very often people get to know who they really are because they have a crisis. And some part of them might have been knocking on the door for a while saying, you're in the wrong relationship, you hate your job, you're living in the wrong place. Do you really love what you're doing? Do you really respect, the actions and the things that you're choosing to do with this life? And then something comes and it's like that.
Like a tower moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That tower card in the tarot. That moment of reckoning that comes through cancer diagnosis, death, divorce. Often for a lot of men, in midlife, there's this Jungian concept. I think it's a Jungian concept around the middle passage, which is this time in midlife where you get this deep awakening, really, that comes when you've now become an adult. You've been living as an adult post Saturn return for maybe 10, 15 years, and something just is not right or feels off. And for a lot of men, it's initiated by breakup, suffering, divorce, and happen. All different things happen to different people. And I feel like that's happening on a global scale right now. People have always experienced loss and death and crisis.
Yeah.
But because, as I was saying, I feel like the macro emergence of more, the drastic requirement of us to do something different to what we're doing, and how many people feel that but don't know how to act or are acting. We're in this incredible tension point right now in society where we all know, or so many of us feel like there's got to be another way.
Yeah.
But there's no blueprint. I think we talked about this last time. We've lost a lot of respect in our leaders. So really it's kind of like, it's the grassroots. It's the individual choices about how we choose to live. And kind of lost my train of thought here, but
it's like there's no manual, is there?
Yeah.
Sometimes, have you seen Beetlejuice?
No.
And when these two characters die in Beetlejuice, they literally get given a manual. It's like a guide to the afterlife for the recently deceased. And I feel like sometimes we need like a guide on what to do when your government is being shitty.
Totally.
Yeah.
The ways in which to kind of come back around. I'm about to bleed, so I'm like kind of descending into that, like, oh, my brain's this big. When what we've known is no longer what we believe in, or what we know to be true, or what we can give our power into anymore, we're in this collective reckoning. And I feel like that is happening on a macro level, but on a micro individual level, that happens through crisis. And that's often akin to what can be understood collectively as the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
When we reach this point, and there's different kind of esoteric teachings about this, and I don't think there's any like, this is the way, this is what a dark night of the soul is. But what I understand it to be is kind of in that more like secondary stage of the initiatory path of like landing more of your soul, or embodying more of who you are as a soul happens. You get to meet these places that really just don't know what love is and are terrified. And it's kind of like the dungeons, of the psyche and the body. And that all might sound really scary for people, and it can be. But it also, I feel like it's that passageway, that kind of underground tunnel to a greater aliveness, to a deeper understanding of self. And if you want that, like I'm someone who's always wanted that, I've always known there's more.
Yeah.
Always known there's more. And even now, as I go about my daily life, I feel like I know, I don't really know how to describe it, but like I feel like I'm anchored somewhere that believes so deeply in the sacred that I always want to grow and surrender to life as it is. And no matter how messy and clunky and how much I resist, like I definitely resist and make hell for myself. But I feel like I want to be the most free expression of myself that I can. And that means meeting the places in which my soul is like, hello, let me in.
Yeah.
Let me love you.
You're talking about resistance and resisting that dark night of the soul, resisting that, going through that transformation, which, you know, you have to sort of, the only way out is through, and that means you have to go through pain. And the therapist said to me recently that it's something you know, people, and you end up spiritually bypassing it. It's like it's there, and it's like you said, it's reaching out and it's saying, you need this to happen, like I need you to listen to me, and you just keep putting it off, and just like you can't keep spiritually bypassing it. Like you need to let it happen, obviously in a safe and controlled way, whereas sometimes it doesn't happen for a safe and controlled way for a lot of people. And
well, there's no control in life.
Well, yeah,
for you, you know, we're not like living in a secure playground. Like life happens.
Mm-hmm.
That can be really challenging. I've got on the back end of like a really intense long period of heartbreak. I feel like I'm now stabilized enough in a position to be able to see I wouldn't have chosen it, but I obviously needed that in some way. Like some part of me obviously needed, I'm not saying I deserve heartbreak or like I chose it, you know, consciously or whatever, but I feel like our outer reality reflects what's happening on the inside, and the level of initiation that experience was for me has propelled me into a deeper connection with self and a deeper choice to love myself in a way that I've never, ever, ever felt so stable and in love with myself, because I really chose myself. I'm not saying I feel like that all the time, and there's not days where I'm like, oh God, you look awful, or, you know, feel bad about myself or critique who I am, and, you know, that kind of thing. But in general, like there's such a deeper anchor point of like who I know myself to be, and my boundaries and my choices and what I want from my life. And that came through an initiation that I would never have chosen consciously. But I think it's been the making of me as the woman that I am now. And people say the same about motherhood and various different things that we go through. And I think that's what is so alluring for people who are in touch with, call it soul, call it spirituality, I don't know, it's different for everybody. And so scary for people that aren't, is because for those of us that want to touch the full spectrum of human existence and to feel pleasure and pain and to know ourselves and to have really deep relationships and to have gorgeous lovemaking and you know, be creative and like bring our projects and our passions forward and live in the way that our hearts desire, I feel like there's some kind of inner flame that propels those of us that are like that forward. And that's not really a choice. You know, I think we can choose how we engage with that flame, but I think some of us are just wired like that. And I feel like more and more younger generations are coming in with that kind of burning for a different world.
With I think when people start going on this journey of being more true to themselves and finding themselves, and you do go through pain, I think you go through, and you start to learn your own boundaries as well, as you mentioned, you do go through loss. And like sometimes that can be friends that you've, you know, known all your life, or even, you know, very close family members that you have to sort of cut your losses, and because it's not serving you. It's not serving you as in like it's not doing you any good. And that can be really scary for people, because, you know, especially family, because sometimes your family is all you know, and then where's your support system gone? And how do you go through that? Which I guess is probably why a lot of people, I suppose, do that spiritual bypassing, because the journey is just might be too much. There's too much of a risk. They might feel like the risk doesn't outweigh, like the pros don't outweigh the risk, but they can't see a positive resolution at the end of it, which is scary. I know that, I think since getting into my 30s, and I say in the last sort of 7 years, with friendships particularly, there are friendships that I don't have anymore, because it was draining and it wasn't serving me a purpose, and we just weren't aligning. Like there was just the alignment was gone, and like it felt like it feels easier. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting older, but it felt easier to just sort of say no. I have a friend. She put it perfectly. Actually, she was really funny. She went, Freya, when you get into your 30s, sometimes you just got to cut off some bitches. Like, and I was like, she was like, don't literally cut them though. And I was like, no, I get what you mean. But yeah, it's just, it's kind of like a part of your brain wakes up and goes, why am I here? Why am I doing that? Like, and I don't look to end friendships on a sour note, or, you know, I don't look to end friendships under a fight or anything like that. But I think because the other person can be so offended and affected by it and they don't understand. And then I think it can come down to control as well. And then their own sort of feelings, then it can, you know, and unfortunately get a little bit messy as well. And that can be really hard. And another reason as to why people want to avoid it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think we're all scared of being alone as well.
Yeah. And the metamorphosis process of becoming, moving from A to B, growing into the next version of ourselves, which as women we do every month anyway. There's an inevitability of loss because we change shape and we transform and we transfigure, and people who at one point felt really reflective of that version of us will naturally fall away as who we are changes. And that can be such a delicate, tender, painful process. I think the loss of friendship is kind of an undiscussed grief that can be really painful. There's not so much kind of written or shared or, you know, talked about in films and popular culture and things like that. And sometimes it can be necessary. I remember when I moved to New Zealand, I deleted everyone off social media. And I didn't do it very gracefully at all. Like I left a lot of WhatsApp groups. I needed space to work out who I was, and I just felt really ready for a change. I can imagine that hurt some feelings. And people worried about me, you know, over the course of the last 8 years of kind of change and cycles. There's definitely been times when my family have been very worried about me and haven't known how to relate with who I am and trying to meet the new version of me, and going through a metamorphosis kind of dark night of the soul process is actually very painful to watch from the outside for people that love you, because it's scary to watch somebody go through like a period of darkness, which is what I did. And that definitely had an impact on some of my relationships, because especially as I'd lived abroad, as I went away and was doing all this kind of inner work and exploration and changing and growing, and then I would come back to the UK and meet people not as the person that I was, and they would get glimmers of who I was. And it was really quite a janky process. And I feel like it's only actually now, after completing a 7-year cycle, that I'm more akin to who I was before I left.
It's interesting that you say 7-year cycle, because that's been coming up a lot for me recently. And it's interesting. My mum has always said, you know, we go through 7-year cycles on a cellular level. We go through 7-year cycles. Sometimes, you know, on an emotional level, a psychological level, if, you know, something's happened or you're going through a dark time, you know, it's a 7-year cycle. And I think there's something really sort of true around that, you know. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just inevitable. We are as mid-30s women. I don't know how old you are.
Well, I'm 37 now, so I'm going to start a new cycle.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming to the end. So when I turn 38, when I turn 38, I'll be, you know, so I guess I'm just sort of on a cellular level. It makes sense that I am actually where I am at the moment, and what I've recently sort of gone through makes sense, because it's 7 years and I'm transforming again.
And we're in this interesting phase as female bodies where there's friends of mine who are, I'm actually going to write a piece about this, and maybe I'll share it with you, but the other day I've been voice messaging 2 friends. One just lost a baby at 9 weeks, and one has just told me she's pregnant and she's 9 weeks. And I have friends who are getting engaged, getting married, getting pregnant. I've got friends who are doing IVF. I've got friends who are failing IVF and not knowing whether they're going to be able to try again. I've got friends who are getting divorced. I've got friends who are entering perimenopause and feeling crazy. I've got really close friends who are out the other side of menopause. I've got friends who are deeply in menopause. It's like the whole spectrum of the women in my life, you know, ranging from 30 to 50. Everything exists in this time frame, and it also creates this. The beautiful thing is, I think it shows an incredible capacity of female friendships to hold the full spectrum of what it means to be a woman.
Yeah, completely.
You know, like, you know, I've got friends in their early 40s planning a family with someone, and suddenly there's a breakup, and being, you know, aware of having to really be conscious of those collective narratives of projection, like, oh God, you know, you're going to meet someone, you're going to be able to have a family,
your time's running out, like.
And then there's, you know, and then there's other ways of looking at it, which is like, you just set yourself free, you know, to live the life that you really want. And everything happens in these years, and it's such a powerful time, and there's inevitability of darkness and descent, you know, like losing children, birthing, like it's the biggest initiation through the body that a woman can have. And then, women who haven't had children, don't want them, might not appreciate the gravitas of that for others. So it's like, I'm just watching this happen inside of me and in all my friendships, and just feeling like, wow, it's such an enormous time that we're in at this age. And
I think with motherhood, with motherhood, when you become a mother, you also, you know, with that birth is also a death of your old self as well. And then it's understandable that, you know, mothers will feel like they've got and lost their sense of identity, and then they might go through a grieving process with that, and then they might, you know, it's going to take time for them to sort of get back part of their old selves, or go, no, I am still that person. I've just, you know, got, you know, I'm also a mother now as well. And sometimes I remember I was working with, I was working in a community mental health team, and I think we were dealing like with psychosis and postpartum psychosis as well. And one of the mental health nurses said to me, you do lose your identity becoming a mum, and that can be so hard. She went, because you're just suddenly mum, and you're not, you know, you're not Freya anymore, you're mum. And that can be really, really, really hard and really jarring. And, you know, you just don't know where you are anymore, and you don't know who you are. And it's like a balance, isn't it? You're bringing this new life into the world, but at the same time, you're saying goodbye to that old part of yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. And I can see how there's a grieving process for that as well.
Yeah, totally. That's why it's so important, I think, to honour the closing of the bones as an example of a ceremony you can do, or 40 days postpartum, or just the ongoing requirement of what it is to be a mum. Like, I just cannot believe how much my mum has given to us. It's really unfathomable, actually, what she gave and continues to give. I just have a little taste of it, you know, having a dog, but my God, 3 children, she just fully devoted her, like 30 years of her life. And I don't think we really appreciated that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. My mum's a single mum of 4.
Wow.
And she raised us all. She just basically, I mean, she had the help of her dad, my pappy, who's still in our lives, which is incredible. But yeah, it was just her.
Yeah. And even as a single mum, if you've got childcare, I can imagine that those nights when you go to bed and you're thinking, have I done the right thing? Is this the right decision? Like, I remember I had a friend in New Zealand who was a single mum, and she said the biggest thing that she found challenging was not having someone to bounce parenting off with, because she didn't know, you know, should I make this decision? Should I not make that decision? And just the gravitas and the weight of deciding certain things, and being alone in that is huge.
Yeah. I think one thing that makes my mum sad is that if we're out or she's out and she sees families with young children together, or she sees like children playing and having fun, I think it makes her heart ache a little bit, because she's like, I was always working, and I miss not having that time with you all when you were little and we could all have fun and play together. And I was like, but I didn't see it like that. Like, yeah, it was a tricky, sometimes it was a tricky childhood and it was a tricky time, and, being a single mum is never easy. But I think, you kind of set the standard for a work ethic for us as well, and it makes me sad. I'm just like, I just feel like I've missed out on those times when I could have sort of been with you more in the summer holidays, but I had to work. And I was like, yeah, you had to work, but you had to work to keep us all surviving. Yeah.
There's an Instagram account called The Holistic Psychologist. Can't remember her. And then she's written a book called How to Do the Work, which I haven't read, but I really love following her on Instagram. And she often posts about the dichotomy of one thing being, one of the deepest privileges that you can have is coming from a safe background and having a stable father figure and a loving mother and those kind of things. And then also coming from adversity, how that actually can shape you as a person and make you more empathetic and develop work ethic. And I definitely see that in a very close friend of mine. We often talk about this, who had an incredible amount of adversity in her life and how that shaped her and the gifts and the beauty that comes from that.
Yeah.
Which is not to, do a disservice to some of the other things that she's had to deal with. But I think it does shape you. I always used to think that when I'd listen to Desert Island Discs, which I used to be obsessed with. Especially, what's her name? Kirsty Gallagher. Is it Kirsty Gallagher?
Yeah.
Kirsty something. She's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's just the way she interviews is just like art, I think. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. I always used to think, wow, the people who have really done something fantastic, it came from some level of suffering. It came from striving. It came from that inner flame. I've got to create. I've got to make something of myself. I've got to propel myself forward. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of someone that I used to know who came from a very, very secure background, like parents are still together, sort of had a really lovely childhood, wanted for nothing, never went through any sort of adversity, and their empathy and compassion, that it felt like it was so small. That understanding of life just felt so small compared to someone who, like you said, has been through adversity, and by that empathy and compassion, they're more sensitive, it's more in tune. And there were just sort of some situations and some sort of things or situations or circumstances where they just wouldn't get it. They just wouldn't understand it. And because they've never experienced it. And sometimes it could be something just so simple as just like, have a bit of consideration, or just be a little bit more assertive. And they'll be like, well, why? Why? And no one should have to go through adversity. We all should. It would be lovely if we could all have a secure upbringing and really good, valid experiences. But that's not always the way. But it's like you said, there is something to say about going through pain and suffering. And it's balance, isn't it? Life can't be good all the time. And I've kind of seen that, this person who never had anything sort of bad to them all the way growing up happen, compared to someone like me who has been through adversity. We were very, very different. And it's like someone says two people could go through the same situation at the exact same time and they'll come out with completely polar opposite experiences. And it's just, it just kind of blew my mind a little bit, because on the one hand I kind of envy this person, who kind of has sort of, a really stable family, loving family, really, financially stable, has always had like really good experiences. But the interesting thing was that when they did have to face adversity, when something did happen, they didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, of course, because the resilience muscle is tested.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that became really tricky for them. They just like sort of didn't know what to do. They just sort of shut down.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen in life. It's just inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't coast as much as we'd all love to. You just can't coast through. And I think it makes us appreciate the good times more. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, actually, about horror, and this woman who was the guest on this podcast, she said, when the world is going through more adversity and more suffering, we watch horror more because it's a comfort, because somewhere inside of us things are bad, but we're not getting chased by a serial killer, kind of thing. And we find it. So there's a whole psychology behind it, that when the world is going through a really shit time, we tend to watch more horror movies.
Well, I've read more books about grief in the last 18 months than I have in my whole life. Because I was looking for external reflections and words that wrapped around the experience that I was having. And as someone who loves to write and is obsessed with reading, that's where I go to. And there's been particular music albums or books that have just articulated loss in such a primal way that was able to touch something that I know to be true in myself. That very rarely, well, not for me, because I'm very privileged. I've got really amazing friends in my life who have done some deep inner excavation, and so they can really be with, when life falls apart, they can really be with that, and I was very supported. But there's also experiences of that not being able to be met. It's in the way that it's fine, and that's fine. But it's kind of better off not to go there with someone who doesn't want to go there or can't hold it, because it's quite a lonely, isolating experience. But there was a couple of books that I read that I was just like, oh, this is it. This is the articulation of, and it really helped me and satiated something I was looking for.
I think a really incredible album to listen to when you're going through some sort of grief process, whether it's heartbreak or loss of a loved one, be it a friendship, be it a parent, be it a pet, whether that loss is you're just not speaking anymore, or that loss is, physical, like they've passed away. I found a really incredible album by Hosier. So his most recent one, which came out a few years ago, is called Unreal Unearth, and that is beautiful.
Okay.
And his songs have come from a really, really deep place. I think he's based it on I think he was very heavily inspired sort of by Dante's Inferno and the Seven Circles of Hell, but you can tell he's writing from a place of grief. And his lyrics, just the songs, I would really, really recommend deeply listening to that album, especially if you're going through some sort of grief process, because it's very valid. It's a very validating album if you're going through it. And my God, you really need it. I mean, The Unknown is such a beautiful, beautiful song. And it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. Clearly it's about some sort of relationship ending. You could interpret it as a romantic relationship. You could interpret it as, just a platonic relationship, or the loss or a death of a loved one. But also what is so interesting is when I really listen, I mean, it's such a beautiful song, but when I listen to Unknown, I also see it in a very religious way, because the way the lyrics are makes me feel like it's the heartbreak between God and Lucifer. It's really interesting. Because he says I would swim a lake of fire and walk across a frozen sea, and it's just that's almost biblical.
A lot of it is.
He's a genius. A genius.
I think sometimes a lot of people do look back to those kind of biblical references for I don't know, a framework for how we understand transcendental experiences of life, whether that's grief, loss, death, love, pain, beauty. It is etheric and soul based in nature, and the soul is not a tangible thing. It's this intangible essence that so many of us are trying to wrap words around or put feeling to. when we listen to music or read books or meet someone, where it's, for me, I can feel that like, oh, there's a heavy dose of soul here. Like I can feel it.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'd highly recommend Unreal Enough. Well, I recommend Hosey's albums anyway, because he's such a wonderful songwriter. But Unreal Enough, it really like hits you in the feels. It's very validating. It's like, oh, he's been through it.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. I hear what you say. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone who's struggling with loss out there, listen to that album. Yeah. And I find it's a very healing album, which I think is great. I think music is so important. The way it can literally like resonate inside of you. Yeah. With those vibrations. Incredible. Yeah. I've lost my train of thought now because I went off on a tangent about music. But yeah. Do you feel like when people say I'm on a healing journey, or I'm on this transformation journey, or I'm going through healing, and people are like, I can't do that until I've healed yet. And I've been like that. I'm sometimes get stuck in a mindset of, I can't allow myself to have this thing until I'm better. I can't allow myself to do this thing because I'm not ready, because I'm not healed. But then at the same time, do you ever heal? Are you always, do you think it's a constant ever evolving thing when it comes to healing?
I don't think we're ever healed. I don't think we ever get anywhere. I think and I've experienced myself, I feel like there's particular pieces, whether it's like personality development work or ancestral healing or soul pieces kind of being retrieved.
Yeah.
That once that thing is reclaimed, there's a significant like, okay, that piece is done now. For example, if someone has always really struggled with boundaries because they had their boundaries transgressed as a child, if they, for whatever reason, get themselves to a point where they feel like their boundaries are really solid, often that's like, cool, you got that piece down. It's not to say that there might never be anything again around boundaries that might trigger or be a challenge, and it might be something to constantly be working with. But I feel like sometimes there's like a clunk where we're just like, okay, that thing that really used to challenge me is not a challenge anymore. Like I have particular views about myself that are very outdated that I don't think about anymore, and that is not a part of my life anymore because I've moved through that particular piece. I feel like there's also, depending on who you are, and I think this is particularly important now, like I think it's really important to not constantly be trying to heal something and not constantly be like, when I'm good enough, when I'm this, when I'm that. Because it's like people that win the lottery, when I win the lottery, I'll be happy. And then they spend all the money and they're not happy. When this happens, I'll be happy. When I have a partner, I'll be happy. And then you get a partnership, it might be beautiful, but it might trigger the deepest core wound that you have because you haven't felt safe enough to meet that part of you. That's not a bad thing, but I just think we don't ever really transcend, we don't really ever get anywhere. But for sure there can be developmental stages and kind of stages and phases that we go through. I think there's something important about being self-aware. For example, like I didn't feel open to relating with anyone because I felt it was really important for me to honor a time of not seeking relationship, of not seeking connection.
Yeah.
And that felt really true. So that was more like, when I feel better, when I feel ready, not better, when I feel ready, I will open up again. I guess if I was coming from a place of when I'm not X, Y, or Z enough anymore, or like I'll only relate again when I'm perfect. Then that would limit me from living a possible expression of life, because I'm waiting for perfection. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. I need to get past that place because I'm very much like, well, I can't do that until I've met this, and I won't allow myself to experience this until I am, at a certain place in my life, and it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? you're literally like getting in the way of yourself the whole time. You're constantly getting in the way of yourself. And I think you subconsciously start putting in these unattainable goals and expectations.
Yeah.
And then you forget about meeting the reality of it. Yeah.
I think sometimes we are possibly in a phase where we just feel stuck. And it can feel like, I've definitely had phases like this with my work where it feels like I'm just wading through treacle and I berate myself, or I'm kind of questioning and spinning, and then inevitably there's like a pop through, and it's like, okay, I can see why I was wading through treacle, because something deeper was being revealed to me and I have to trust that process. But yeah, I do think, like if someone was to say, I'll only start eating healthily when I have more money, or I'll only start doing this when I have X, Y, or Z, it kind of takes away our agency to be able to make change in the day to day. Going for a walk is free. Like spending more time in sunlight is free. Like there's these ways in which we can improve and make change that don't require full system rehaul.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a core part of the work that I do with people, actually, is the initial stages of working together is very often about holistic well-being and how do you make the changes that are actually feasible and attainable in your day-to-day life as it is now, and then build from that place. It's like the basics of habit forming. Because we can kind of have these like nebulous ideas of, God, wouldn't it be great if I'm someone that meditates for an hour every day?
Yeah.
And then live in this idea that everything's going to be fine when you meditate an hour every day. But actually, if you start taking 5 minutes of quiet time in the sunshine every day, before you know it, you're very far along the track to becoming someone that meditates every day. But there's maybe not this idea of like, I have to do this because that means that I'm going to be like Jodie Spencer or, some like transcendental master.
Like I have to sit on my yoga cushion in the living room and light some incense and cross my legs and just close my eyes.
Totally. It's like, if it's not sacred, it's not special, or, all that stuff. I think it's just about, I see this so much with my dog. Like I've really had to take the opportunities as they come. Like I use every single opportunity that comes up in real time to train him and teach him.
Yeah.
I don't try and wait for like the perfect architecture of training, because it just doesn't happen. It's like I get out there and I just take the opportunities as they come. And I have seen how transformative that is, because I'm fully in control of that experience, because he's a dog and he doesn't have any of those voices that are like, I don't want to do this. So that's really shown me a lot, actually, for my work, is how much, and I do it too, my God, how much we can live in this kind of self-obsessed story of like, oh, I'm like this, or I like that, or and how we can limit ourselves in that place. Yeah.
It's interesting that you said architecture, because I've had that word in my head for the last 5 minutes, like architecture. And I've just been sort of visualizing, thinking about our souls, the architecture of our souls. It's constantly being built upon, and then bits are constantly falling down, and then new bits are being built upon, and then other bits are falling away, or other bits might be crumbling and might need repairing. And it's like we are constantly building, like we are the architects, and we're constantly architects. We're the architects of our soul. And eventually, it's like I said about that collective unconscious, it's going to get so big, parts of us, our architecture is going to merge with others, it's all going to have that connection. Yeah. And then I think it's finding the right architecture that can support you and you can support them, the right building, the right structures. Yeah. It's probably a terrible metaphor.
No, it's a beautiful metaphor, the architecture of soul. That's a great segue into softcore, the retreat that I talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because what my work aims to do, and what softcore also aims to do, is to put enough architecture of well-being around people so that people are sleeping well, eating well, feeling safe.
Yeah.
The nervous system calms. The bodies drop. There's like a significant doof in the space. And then that deeper healing work can happen from that place,
Mm-hmm.
because the body is malleable and
Yeah.
softening and able to feel what needs to be felt. Pieces start to arrive, pieces start to come up, pieces start to melt away. And I think without a healthy vessel, without being really well
Mm-hmm.
and well nourished emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physically, we're kind of no use to anyone. And I think that's so much of what's happening in the collective, is that because of all the reasons I'm sure everyone listening is aware of, like busyness and modern life and toxic lifestyles and all that kind of thing, a lot of us are running on empty and really just trying to get by. It's like a base level of survival and that people are living in. And to live outside of that takes such incredible work and risk and dedication to not kind of jumping on the treadmill just like everyone else. And I think, to come back to COVID, like that's one of the things that COVID showed people, is you don't actually have to live like that. No one's got a gun to your head and saying you have to live the way that you are. But because we get so submerged in the collective way of being, that it took something so drastic that basically shut the world down, where everyone's on the same page. And then I feel like there was actually authentic choice that was able to expose itself. And some people did change their life, and some people went exactly back to how things were. So I feel like any soul work, any deep time of excavation is it's crucial that the body is well to be able to navigate that journey. And sometimes that is part of the journey. Like a health crisis might be the torch, the flame that lights the torch paper. We're not always, able to be in the state that we physically want to be in, or we can be in. There's different factors and reasons for that. Some of it is socioeconomic and health-based and disability-based and, all that kind of thing. But if it's possible to look after self as well as you possibly can, that will just ease the times in life when things get rocky. Because there's a level of resourcing that's there that means that it's a bit more flex in the system.
Softcore, do you still run your temple?
I'm not doing my temple anymore.
No.
Maybe I'll talk about it here because it's word of mouth. I'm doing a word of mouth circle in my house in North Coast Cornwall. So if you want to come to that, you can reach out to me. I'm doing an experiment to build community offline. Because as I was saying to you before the podcast, I spent 9 months marketing a retreat, which I will continue to work with. I have my mentorship work, and I'm also a writer, and I write a lot and have a Substack. So I just found that the level of basically time on social media and marketing I was having to do to make local events happen just felt like not actually where I really want to put my energy and my time, which is a shame because I love what I do. And I feel like there is a real desire for more sacred spaces where intimacy can be explored. But I'm going to trial building grassroots community, word of mouth, and seeing what happens when people of resonance, kind of back to the old days, where you go to something and you say, that was really great, hopefully. Bring a friend. Who brings a friend? And that's what I really want from my spaces. It's not about having a million people there. It's about the people there being so in resonance that there's a really strong field where people get to really be touched by the experience and meet new people, meet new friends and build connections. And that for me is success, so I'm exploring something different.
I think that sounds beautiful. And I was talking earlier about how I have a circle that I go to every couple of weeks, and so with social media it's so hard because you have to make sure that the algorithm is still with you, and in order to do that you have to then post, because the algorithm works on posts, doesn't it? So it's like making sure you're posting at least every single day. And I was speaking to a lady yesterday about this, and she was saying like the social media side is so hard because you have to consistently like be in it all the time, and when it's also just so exhausting as well, and then you kind of feel like almost disconnected from your work. Yeah,
I
it's
think
tricky.
for me, it's more about right relationship and aliveness than like a plan of when you should or shouldn't post. You know, I see people and know people who they have a great social media following and it's very alive and active. And I think it's less about what they do, but it's more how they do it. And for me, like I didn't have the aliveness in me to really like create stuff that is going to land with people in a way that's like, oh yeah, I really feel that. And I kind of felt that aliveness to trickle away from me for that. And I really try and listen to that because I can feel it, you know, when I write something or post something and my heart's not really in it. And that doesn't feel good. And that doesn't land either. It's the thing where there's like some heft behind it that's like, oh yeah, like, this has got a bit of spice and like life behind it.
If people wanted to come to your circle, or you know, experiencing a softcore workshop for the very first time, and I think I might have spoken about this in our last podcast, what can they expect to see from like a very first session, who have like got no experience in it, might be quite nervous, and you know, might even come with some trauma or some like anticipation, or
oh yeah, so many people got stuff around group and feeling safe in group, and it's really common. So everything I do basically builds on that foundational pillar of holistic well-being. So all group work that I do is about helping people feel safe in the space, dropping into the body, getting a felt sense of like groundedness and rootedness and presence in the moment. And then there might be some kind of self-inquiry, connection, feeling ourselves as alone and together. So it's a connection to self first, and then connection to group from a place of feeling really rested and rooted. Sometimes it's conversational, sometimes there's creative expression, self-inquiry, ritual. Softcore is very ritualistic, so we do lots of movement and dancing, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun and sharing, and kind of follow this trajectory of body, heart and soul. So dropping into the body first and expanding into meeting the heart and some of the tender places that can come when we drop into the body. And then soul, which is like, okay, now we're feeling a bit more soft and safe with each other. That authentic essence starts to pour out. You don't even have to try. It just happens, because that's who we are. And it starts to shine forward when we feel safe in a group where we know we're not being judged and we don't have to have our guard up. And it's just an inevitability of expression and joy that bubbles up from that place. So it's kind of the architecture of everything that I do, even if it's just a 2-hour workshop or working with me for 3 months or 5-day retreat or whatever. It's so much about nervous system, safety, self-connection, body care, touch, and then being present with anything that arises, and then working out, okay, who really am I? You know, what am I really here for? How do I want to express? Like, what do I want to feel? What does my life look like? What would life be like if I really said yes to the things that I really want?
It sounds amazing. When you have your sessions up and running, I will definitely want to come and take part.
Well, the first one is in July. So.
Okay, July. July the when? Because I'm away towards the end of July.
It's 9th of July.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We can, What day is that?
That's a Thursday. So I'm going to do them once a month on a Thursday evening. So if you're listening and you're in Cornwall and you want to come, just reach out to me on Instagram, probably is the best place. Softcore will happen again. We've got a unofficial wait list, so you can also reach out to me and find out more. And if people want to work with me, I do in-person sessions from my house in Cornwall. That's body work and like ritualistic work for women. And then mentorship for kind of creative potential, self-leadership, intimacy, things like that. And I also work with men, which we talked about last time.
You did, yeah. That was really nice. I think that I liked that conversation because it kind of got me out of my negative space a little bit, and my I need to stop tarring them all with the same brush, which is very easy to do.
Yeah, well, men get a bad rep, you know, and I really understand that because there's lots of statistics, you know, that are terrifying.
Yeah.
I just read, it's up there, Rebecca Solnit. She's a feminist writer. She wrote an essay called "Men Explain Things to Me," and it started because she went to a dinner party of like she called it like a Ralph Lauren style, like log cabin, like very kind of posh. You can imagine that kind of archetypal American upper class kind of thing. And she'd written a book about something, and the host came over and said, "Have you heard of that very clever book that's just come out about this topic?" And she was like, "Yes, I have actually." And her friend was standing next to them and saying, "It's her book. It's her book. It's her book." And she said it 4 times until the guy actually listened and was like, "Oh." And it turned out he hadn't read the book. You know, he didn't actually really know anything about it. He was mansplaining, although that wasn't a term that was around then. Anyway, so she wrote this essay, "Men Explain Things to Me," and it really connected with the collective zeitgeist of all the ways in which women have felt and can feel like talked down to or insecure or brushed over. And then she did an academic version. So academic men explain things to me because there's so much misogyny in academia. And of course, you know, there's like so many things that are coming out, Epstein files, the Motherless website, etc., that really show us that women in domestic relationship in the home have something to worry about. Like, not obviously everyone, but you know, there's like significant statistics around abuse by trusted people in someone's life. However, that's not the case for everyone, and part of why I hold mixed gender spaces is because I firmly believe in the goodness of the human spirit and in the soul being beyond our outer form. And I feel like it's really important to have spaces where we are with each other, regardless of what bodies we're in. And we have a lot to learn from each other, I think, and in the same way that a lot of women carry a lot of charge or fear of men. Men do the same, you know, they carry a lot of charge and fear around women. And we're in this mad time of gender wars, you know.
Huge.
Like it's just... So the more, I think, with safety and love and places of trust where we can collapse some of these supercharged up projections and prejudices around each other, the better, you know. Like I was raised by, you know, I've got only sisters. My dad is just the most gorgeous human being, you know. I feel so lucky to have had the imprint from a man that I've had from him. So I've always been really attracted to working with men, and I think that's partly why. Yeah. Which is lovely, and I kind of envy you for that, because I didn't have that from my biological dad, but I had a little bit from my pappy, I suppose, because he started to, he essentially started to help raise us when I was around 9 years old, and you know, and he's still around today, and he is just... That's amazing. Incredible. He's still alive. So I think it's 94 this year. Wow. Oh, he's just grand. He's just amazing. He's just wonderful, a really wonderful person, wonderful human being. But I shy away from working with men, or you know, if there's male presence, whether it's in a work environment or a social environment, I instantly my back is up straight away. I'm like very much in like a protective mode, where I give off vibes and say, do not come near me, don't interact with me. If you interact with me, it's going to be on a very basic level. I'm not, you know, here for anything else, which then has its own consequences. Yeah. Everybody's on their own unique journey, I think, with all of these places, and it just takes as long as it takes, and we just have to be present and loving, I think, towards where we are on the path, because there's there's huge archetypal themes playing through the very human, fragile experience of love. Yeah.
There's so much out there on the news and TV, documentaries and social media as well, you know, about the statistics around misogyny. And, you know, you'll see like reels of podcasts, you know, either of, or what are they called? The manosphere community. They're doing their podcasts spouting bullshit. And then you'll see another, you know, podcast where they're talking about the statistics and they're challenging, you know, those extremists. I suppose you could call them extremists, aren't they? And you can easily get sucked into that, And then, yeah, you end up on a kind of like one track mindset. And I say, well, you know, 92% of all violent crimes are committed by men. And if, you know, men say, well, we need to protect women. It's like, from what? From you? There was no men around who wouldn't need protecting. And it's just, yeah, you can get into a bit of a toxic spiral. So I think it's really nice that you have this sort of self-awareness to be very balanced about it, and to have that hope going forward, and that belief, like you said, in the soul and in humanity and the goodness of people.
Totally.
Yeah, which I think is something we could all do with more and all learn from.
And anybody who is becoming an abuser is very likely a victim of abuse.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've come across numerous men who were abused in childhood by their own mother, you know, like it's not binary. Nothing in this world is binary. Maya Luna, do you know Maya Luna?
No.
She's an oracular poet who is a spiritual teacher. She's the Venus Path on Instagram.
Okay.
She has a whole body of work where she's kind of unpeeling these narratives around patriarchal masculinity and dominator overculture. And she is just, I think, the best, coming from, I guess, kind of what your audience or a witchy audience might be interested in. She is unpeeling so many narratives around how we've got to where we've got to when it comes to patriarchal masculinity. And it's all framed in this context of initiation that she's been through and the work that she does around what she calls the mystery religion of love and goddess culture and the myths around Persephone and Hades and Inanna and Ishtar, Aphrodite. So if anybody's interested in sex work, she has a paid Substack where she talks about her experiences as a sacred prostitute and having done erotic massage for 15 years. And it's such an exquisite depiction of that work, and also really highlights the male psyche and why so many men come to someone like her for deep healing.
Yeah.
And really what it means for them to be touched with like the hands of the goddess, you know, and eros and love. And I feel like for anyone who wants to understand the male psyche and the very vulnerable parts of why men are yearning for touch and love, that's a really beautiful thing to listen to.
Yeah.
And in general, her podcast and her Substack is like unpeeling so many layers. It's just incredible, actually, this whole body of work that's coming through her. I've just listened to a few interviews she did with a guy called Ian McKenzie, who's also got a podcast called The Mythic Masculine. And that's also something that's really good to listen to understand more about where men are coming from. And he talks about the kind of roots of men's work, and there's just so much to it. And I feel like that really can help have people see men need deep healing and initiatory rites of passage and love and care, just like women do. And there's so many spaces for women, and there's a lot of spaces now for men. But we kind of all need this work regardless of gender. So there's some good resources that I would recommend.
That is something I'm definitely going to go and listen to. And and
I'll send
on her
it all to
Instagram. Yeah, thank you. Soul transformation and self-healing, what books would you recommend for people to start out with if they want to start this journey?
Awakening the Soul by Michael Meade.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but there's a book called Soulcraft by Bill Plotkin.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the kind of seminal teachers on vision questing and nature and connection to the soul. It's definitely not about soul explicitly, but Rupi Kaur is a Sri Lankan Canadian, I think, poet who's written various different books about heartbreak and body connection and things like that. And it's poetry, but it's really exquisite. And I think it really talks to like that metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, her first book is called like, it's called The Sun and Her Flowers, but each chapter it's about a breakup, and each chapter is called like Wilting, Rising, Growing, Blooming, or something like that. And so that's a really beautiful way to kind of journey through the archetypal dance of heartbreak. Just trying to think, all my books are in the other room. I'm obsessed with Nick Cave.
Oh, yes.
And I just listened to his book with Sean O'Hagan called Faith, Hope and Carnage.
Mm-hmm.
And I could do a whole podcast about Nick Cave, but for anybody that doesn't know Nick Cave, he's a musician, rock star, and also has a newsletter called The Red Hand Files, which I recommend subscribing to. And he is basically like a spiritual teacher in and of his own right, I think. And this book, Faith, Hope and Carnage, talks about how he created his album Ghosteen, which he wrote after the death of his son. His son tragically died. When he was 16, he fell off a cliff in Brighton. And
that was, I remember reading about that, and I was just like, oh, that is, like you said, it's a tragedy.
It is.
Full.
And so the book talks about the writing of this album, the creation of this album. And if you're a complete nerd like me, like I went back and listened to the whole album from start to finish, and I do all the time because I'm obsessed with it. But kind of like the Hosier album, like just really touches me. And I feel like that album it's a narrative with the soul of his child. It's just so exquisite. I've got even goosebumps thinking about it. It's like it's so ethereal and just transcendent, and it's like otherworldly. But that book talks a lot about the kind of creative process of making that album, and some of the other ways in which he communed with the soul of his child. And so it's not an explicitly like this is theory of soul, but I think it's kind of more important in some ways, because it's like a demonstration of how something that was the worst thing in the world to someone has been infused through art and then talked about in a way that is like meaning making of these experiences. And so that's kind of in recent times, that's the most obvious expression of creating from the gaping wound that I've ever seen. And that is soul to me. Then there's so many others I could recommend, but I guess one that comes to mind is not about soul explicitly, but there's a book by Kimberly Ann Johnson, who's a somatic teacher, pelvic care health expert, called Taming the Wild or Something Wild. And that if you're a woman and you're interested in, or if you're a female body, you're interested in sexuality and trauma healing, that's the number one book I would recommend. And I feel like there's strong threads of soul reclamation through that, in reclaiming connection to Eros and the body connection. I could go on and on and on.
Well, what about your Substack? So my
Substack is called Witch Child. That is a confessional place where I write confessionally and do life writing. And I really am just trying to tease apart what soul means to me and what all these topics and themes are. And some of it's very personal, some of it's very transpersonal, but I'm really putting a lot more time and energy into that Substack. And I think I'm like number 40, like faith and spirituality Substacks.
That's incredible.
Which is
well
nuts.
done.
And I looked at the number one and it's got like 6 million followers or something, which is crazy. So I really want to grow that, because I've been writing there for nearly 3 years, and it's just a natural expression of how I kind of tease apart all these topics. But I really love writing. And so if anybody wants to come and be part of that Substack, please do.
Olivia, it's been such a pleasure talking to you again. I love the conversations that we have. They're just so deep and grounding, and they make me more self-aware of my perhaps unconscious bias towards certain topics and certain things, and also my own self-awareness with my own psyche. And yeah, I find talking to you is very healing and very validating. So thank you so much for coming back on the podcast, and I hope to have you back on again.
Thank you.
Soon.
It's a pleasure. It really is. Like I really love talking about all these topics. It's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And I could just go on and on and on, or everyone's senseless. But yeah, maybe we can look at my bookshelf in a minute.
Yes,
you can have a look. Yeah,
I'll be lovely. I'll take a picture of it. For the gram, as I say.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed listening to this episode with Olivia. I have linked all of her book recommendations and the podcast recommendations in the show notes. And Olivia has kindly offered a 50% discount to her Substack Witch Child, which I've also linked for you in the show notes. So go and check that out if you wish. And please go and have a look at Olivia's website and her Instagram and see the great work that she's doing. Let's move on to our Witch Weekly events, where I let you know what witchy or spiritual events are happening in and around South Devon and Cornwall. Starting with local covens that are seeking new members. So if you're a solitary witch looking to join a coven, this might be for you. Ros and Booker, one of Cornwall's longest established covens, hold meetings in North Cornwall and the Devon-Cornwall border. Applicants are welcome to introduce themselves via email and can visit their website for more information. The Cunning Grove is a witch and occult shop based in Plymouth. They currently hold the Coven of the Sacred Grove. They are a diverse group of witches from different paths that come together to learn and support each other. Within their coven, they break the year down into 4 seasons. The physical coven meets on a Tuesday and Thursday nights fortnightly. They also have an online coven with spaces available. Everyone is in a group together, and each week they drop different techniques and teachings from PDFs, slides, and videos. Joining the covens comes with a range of benefits. You can get money off the shop and services, and you can also make use of the coven library, which is for local members only. To join the physical coven, it's £30 per person. And if you want to join the online coven, that's £15. If you would like to get in touch, you can message them through their Instagram page or Facebook page. I've also added their email address in the show notes. Seren from Serendipity Healing holds 3 women's circles. These are Tuesday in Abbot Scarswell, Wednesday in Torquay, and Thursday in Totnet, and they are all from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Participants can choose the date and venue that suits them, and she covers the same information in each one. They happen every 3 weeks, so you can celebrate the Sabbath and connect to nature's cycles. And then you will have a session between each Sabbath to look inward. She teaches a variety of modalities. These include somatic movement, guided meditations, tarot and oracle cards, witch runes, exploring crystals, herbs, journaling, creative expression through arts and crafts, Reiki, Sekhem energy, drumming and sound, goddess work with the archetypes, meaningful ritual and ceremonies, and lots more. Local witchy and spiritual events. Continuing with the Cunning Grove, on Wednesdays they hold a Witch and Stitch, which is a free weekly crochet, knitting and witchcraft session. And on Saturday mornings, they hold a free Witch and Brew session, which is a social with tea, talk, and it has a teaching focus. And you can find out more information via their website, which is linked in the show notes. Looking forward to this week and weekend. Friday the 3rd of July, Whitemoor Village Hall is holding a Mystic Drumming Circle by Mystic Willow Events, and this is being held from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Also on Friday, Tavistock is holding a ghost walk. The meeting place is Bedford Square, and this is held from 8:15pm until 11:15pm. On Saturday the 4th of July, Millbrook Village Hall in Torpoint is having an evening of clairvoyance, and this is from 7pm. In Penwith, a return to self-yoga and meditation afternoon is being held from 1pm until 5pm. And on Sunday the 5th of July, a sound bath is being held in the Porthleven Public Hall, and this is from 7pm until 9pm. And the links for tickets for all of these events mentioned over this weekend, you can find them in the show notes. If you have an upcoming witchy or spiritual event and you would like me to do a shout out for your event on the show, then please contact me. My details are in the show notes, and you can find me at the Cornish Witch Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. That is everything I have for you for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Cornish Witch Podcast. This podcast is an independent personal project created outside of my professional life. It exists as a space for conversation with witches, spiritual practitioners, and those walking their own paths, sharing lived practice, ritual, experience, and folklore often rooted here in Cornwall and the land itself. If you value these conversations and would like to support the continuation of the podcast, there is a voluntary link in the show notes. Listening will always remain free and there is no expectation to contribute. Whether you support here, listen quietly, or carry these stories onward by sharing them with others, thank you. Your presence honours the craft and keeps these tellings alive. May these stories find you when they are meant to. And until next time, may the path rise to meet you.